I'm Jessreel from the Customer Success Team at Consultare Inc. Group. Last week, we discussed the Allergen Management Program as outlined in FSSC 22000 version 6, clause 2.5.6, which governs that proper and authorized allergen management program should be implemented across certified organizations. Today, we'll move on to clause 2.5.7, Environmental Monitoring Program or EMP, which also falls under the additional requirements of FSSC 22000 version 6. This program emphasizes the establishment, implementation, and maintenance of a risk-based system that verifies the effectiveness of microbiological controls and ensures environmental hygiene in processing and production areas. It focuses on identifying, monitoring, and controlling relevant pathogens, spoilage organisms, and indicator microorganisms based on the type of product and processing conditions. Understanding and implementing this program helps organizations proactively detect potential contamination sources, validate sanitation and cleaning effectiveness, and ensure compliance with legal and customer requirements. It also promotes continuous improvement through data trend analysis, timely corrective actions, and regular program reviews, ultimately strengthening the overall food safety management system and maintaining consumer trust. By the way, this free training session is sponsored by Consultare Inc. Group, a compliance company. Founded in 2007, we began by assisting businesses with U.S. import and export compliance and have since evolved into a global provider of food safety, quality, and certification support. Today, our services revolve around compliance management software, specialized training, and end-to-end support services that help organizations achieve and maintain compliance with international standards. Through our platform, interlinkiq.com, we offer an integrated compliance management system that streamlines documentation, monitoring, and audit readiness. We also provide dedicated compliance and certification support programs for FSVP, PCQI, SQF, BRCGS, FSSC 22000, ISO 9001, GMP, and HACCP, helping businesses strengthen their regulatory compliance, enhance operational efficiency, and ensure alignment with global food safety and quality management standards. Let's take a look at our training schedule. This week, we will focus on the Environmental Monitoring Program as outlined in FSSC 22000 Clause 2.5.7. Gaining a clear understanding of this requirement is essential to achieving and sustaining your FSSC 22000 certification goals. In today's agenda, we will begin by familiarizing ourselves with the FSSC 22000 version 6, additional requirements, clause 2.5.7, environmental monitoring program. We'll start with a clear description of the requirements, followed by a walkthrough of the compliance action activities, which are scheduled tasks carried out based on scheduled frequency to ensure ongoing certification readiness. We will also discuss the importance of the annual review and internal audit activities to verify the effectiveness of the program and maintain continuous improvement. During the training, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions and clarify any requirements related to implementation. Simply type your questions in the chat box and we will address them during next week's session. As part of this training, you can also access our free 90-day trial of the FSSC 22000 certification management software. This tool helps streamline compliance tasks, assign accountability, and keep audit-ready records. It's also a great way to prepare for FSSC 22000 certification and to get familiar with the requirements and its implementation before an official audit. And finally, upon completion of this training, each participant will receive a familiarization training certificate. To ensure you receive your certificate, please make sure that you have filled up the free certification familiarization training sign-up form that we shared in the chat box. On the screen, you will see a sample of the training certificate that you will receive upon completing each session. With that, let's move forward to our training session where we will be working directly with the FSSC 22000 Compliance Management System software. So let's start by going over the description of the Environmental Monitoring Program. Please take a look at the description on the screen. So it says, to comply with FSSC 22000 Clause 2.5.7, the organization shall establish, implement, and maintain a risk-based environmental monitoring program or EMP that evaluates the effectiveness of microbiological controls and ensures environmental hygiene in processing and production areas. For 1.1.1, which is environmental monitoring requirements, 1.1.1.1 states establish a risk-based environmental monitoring program for relevant pathogens, spoilage organisms, and indicator microorganisms based on product type and processing conditions. Maintain a documented procedure for evaluating the effectiveness of all controls aimed at preventing contamination from the manufacturing environment. This evaluation shall include, at a minimum, an assessment of microbiological controls and compliance with applicable legal and customer requirements. Record and maintain environmental monitoring data, including regular trend analysis, to identify potential risks or deviations in the plant environment. And review the environmental monitoring program for continued effectiveness and suitability at least annually or when triggered by specific events or findings. For the trigger points, the program will be reviewed once the conditions are met below. First, significant changes related to products, processes, or applicable legislation. When no positive testing results have been obtained over an extended period, indicating potential gaps in monitoring effectiveness. Trending of out of specification microbiological results related to intermediate or finished products linked to environmental conditions. Repeated detection of pathogens during routine environmental monitoring, and product alerts, recalls, or withdrawals related to contamination issues associated with the manufacturing environment. So you may update or edit these descriptions as needed, for example, to reflect revisions when new versions or editions are released. Now, to implement this program, we've developed a list of action items in the compliance tab. So this feature helps the FSQA or the food safety team leader to stay organized by scheduling tasks based on their required frequency, whether they are performed daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, or semi-annually. You can also choose to add your own compliance activities or have our team preload the required tasks to ensure that you meet all the necessary requirements under this specific section. Now, here are some examples of your compliance action items to comply with 2.5.7 Environmental Monitoring Program. So for your daily activities, this includes conduct scheduled environmental sampling according to the risk-based plan, such as surfaces, equipment, air, water, and others. Record all sampling results immediately in the environmental monitoring log. Verify proper cleaning and sanitizing procedures before sampling. Investigate any positive or unexpected results, and take immediate corrective actions. And for your weekly activities, this includes reviewing weekly environmental monitoring data for trends and anomalies, conduct a verification of microbiological control measures like sanitation, air handling, or cleaning, share summarized environmental monitoring results with production supervisors. And for the monthly action items, this include analyze trends in indicator organisms, spoilage organisms, and pathogens, review the effectiveness of corrective actions implemented for prior positive results, and update environmental monitoring schedules and sampling locations as necessary based on the risk assessments. For your quarterly activities, conduct formal internal audits of the environmental monitoring program, evaluate compliance with legal and customer requirements, and conduct staff training or refreshers on environmental monitoring procedures. And for the biannual activities, review trends in microbiological data over 6 months, including intermediate and finished products, and validate the effectiveness of all environmental controls using sampling and testing. So you may also add your compliance action items based on your actual process. Now, to complete each of these actions, we've also provided work instructions and detailed compliance activities along with the required artifacts or records to the document completion. So this can be found in the instruction and evidence section of this tab. So to complete a specific action item, for example, let's pick the first one, conduct scheduled environmental sampling according to the risk-based plans, surfaces, equipment, air, water, and others. Let's click the view button here and follow these steps for the compliance activities. So the first step is to implement risk-based sampling plan. The activity is to develop and maintain a documented environmental monitoring plan based on risk assessment, identifying critical areas, surfaces, equipment, air, water, and other relevant sampling points, and ensure sampling frequency and methods aligned with risk and regulatory requirements. So for the artifacts and records, you have the environmental monitoring plan, risk assessment documentation, and your sampling schedule and procedure, or the SOP. So next step is to conduct scheduled environmental sampling. This can be done by performing environmental sampling according to the defined plan and schedule, and use of approved methods and equipment to collect samples from surfaces, equipment, air, water, or other relevant areas. So the artifacts and records included here are some sampling lags or checklist, sample collection records, and chain of custody documentation if applicable. And then for the third step, analyze and record test results. So this can be done by submitting samples to approved laboratories or perform in-house analysis according to the SOPs. Then record results accurately, including dates, locations, and personnel performing the sampling. For the artifacts or records, you need to complete the laboratory reports or in-house test results, data logs for each sampling event, and trend analysis records. Next step is to evaluate compliance against limits or standards. So you need to compare the actual environmental results to predetermined acceptance criteria or the regulatory limits. So you need to also identify deviations or trends that may indicate contamination risk. So the artifacts and records involved in this process or in this step are compliance evaluation reports, trend analysis charts, and non-conformance reports. Next is to implement corrective actions or deviations. So if positive results are generated, so you need to initiate corrective actions for any positive or out of specification environmental results and verify the corrective and preventive actions or CAPA are effective. So the CAPA records are being filled out, and then verification and follow-up reports and management review notes. Next is to review and update environmental monitoring program. So periodically review the environmental monitoring plan for effectiveness, update risk assessments, sampling points or frequencies based on audit findings, trend analysis, or regulatory updates. And for the artifacts and records, you need to complete the updated environmental monitoring plan, management review minutes, and SOP revision lags. After that, you need to communicate the program results. So this can be done by sharing the key findings with relevant personnel to maintain awareness of environmental risk and preventive measures, and include results in management review and continuous improvement initiatives. So the artifacts and records includes meeting minutes, communication records, and trend and performance dashboard. So let's say you have performed all of these activities and you have completed this action item. You need to provide an evidence of compliance. So this can be um, in a form of record, artifact, lags, or photo documentation that substantiate the completion of this action item. So in this case, we've uploaded a sample document as evidence of compliance for this specific action item in the form of the environmental monitoring record. So let's take a look at the record. So as you can see, this record demonstrates that the organization has effectively implemented a risk-based EMP or environmental monitoring program. As you can see here, on the 8th of November, a routine sampling was conducted in key areas of the packaging line, including food contact surfaces, equipment, air, water, and environmental zones, such as floor drain in the mixer area. Samples were collected using appropriate methods, including swab test for surfaces and equipment, settle plates for air quality, and grab samples for water testing. The analysis focused on relevant microorganisms or target organisms such as Listeria species, coliforms, APC or aerobic plate count, yeast and molds, and total plate count. So results showed that all areas were within acceptable microbiological limits, indicating effective sanitation and cleaning procedure, except for one location, which is the floor drain near the mixer area, where Listeria was detected. So immediate corrective actions were implemented, including deep cleaning and resampling. Follow-up results confirmed that the contamination was eliminated. So overall, the record provides evidence of ongoing compliance with the FSSC 22000 requirements, particularly the environmental monitoring program, and it is being used to validate sanitation effectiveness, prevent contamination, and maintain hygienic processing conditions. So this is just an example of a compliance document or record that you can use as evidence of compliance. Your goal is to perform all the compliance activities or the action items based on their scheduled frequency and providing evidence of compliance to ensure that your facility processes and documentation remain fully audit ready. So once this is completed, you can turn the no into yes here. So your goal is to turn every no into yes and achieve 100% compliance. Now let's go over to the annual review tab, which also serve as your gap assessment tool. So this tab is designed as an internal audit checklist in the form of questionnaire aligned with the FSSC 22000 requirement. Here you'll find the annual review items that should be reviewed or maintained to comply with the requirement under 2.5.7 Environmental Monitoring Program. So here are some example assessment questions. Does the site have a documented risk-based environmental monitoring program for relevant pathogens, spoilage, and indicator organisms? Is there a documented procedure to evaluate the effectiveness of all controls preventing environmental contamination? Does the program comply with applicable legal and customer requirements? Are daily environmental monitoring activities documented, including sampling results? Are positive or unexpected results immediately investigated and corrective actions implemented? Are weekly and monthly trend analyses conducted on environmental monitoring data? Are trends in indicator organisms, pathogens, and spoilage organisms reviewed for recurring issues? Are all environmental controls validated to ensure effectiveness, like cleaning, sanitizing, air handling, and others? Are corrective actions from previous positive results verified for effectiveness? Are staff trained in environmental monitoring procedures and competency maintained? Is the environmental monitoring program reviewed at least annually for continued suitability and effectiveness? Are program updates conducted when significant changes occur in products, processes, or legislation? Is the program reviewed when no positive results have occurred over an extended period? Is a program reviewed if trends show out of specification microbiological results in intermediate or finished products? Is a program reviewed after any repeat detection of pathogens during routine monitoring? Is a program reviewed following alerts, recalls, or product withdrawals? Are all monitoring activities, analyses, corrective actions, and review outcomes documented? Are documented records maintained to demonstrate compliance and audit readiness? Are annual review results communicated to senior management for approval and decision making? And are improvements identified in the annual review incorporated into the updated environmental monitoring program? So just like in the compliance tab, you can see here the instructions or in the evidence section, the work instructions on how to complete each of these assessment question. Now to demonstrate compliance for this annual review assessment item, let's pick this one here. Are staff trained in environmental monitoring procedures and competency maintained? So we have uploaded here a sample record, which is environmental monitoring training record. Let's take a look at the sample record. So this record demonstrates that the organization has effectively implemented a training and competency program. Um, on November 4th, staff from the QA, Quality Assurance, Production, and Sanitation departments participated in a training session led by the QA supervisor. So during the training, um, it includes both classroom instruction and actual hands-on demonstrations covering topics such as sampling plans, swab techniques, sample labeling, aseptic handling, cleaning verification, sanitation checks, data recording, and corrective action procedure. And following the training, all employees underwent competency assessment, which included practical observations, hands-on exercises, and written quizzes were applicable. The evaluations confirmed that each participant demonstrated the knowledge and skills required to perform environmental monitoring tasks accurately and in compliance with the organization's EMP procedures. So any necessary follow-up, such as refresher training, was also scheduled to maintain ongoing competency. Overall, this record provides clear evidence that staff are trained, competent, and capable of maintaining the organization's environmental monitoring program, supporting effective hygiene control, food safety, and compliance with the FSSC 22000 requirements. So then again, this is just an example of compliance documents that you need to provide to comply with the requirements. And your goal is to complete all the annual review items and reach 100% compliance here on the annual review percentage to be sure that your site is fully prepared for both internal and external FSSC 22000 certification audits. So finishing this checklist confirms your compliance and ensures you're audit ready at all times.